Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Ali Al-Fali. I'm assistant professor in College of Basic Education and at Computing Department. I'm also a board member of Artificial Intelligence of Things Association in Kuwait, and also play roles in IEEE Region 8, which include Europe, Africa, and Middle East, and a committee member in different committee in regional level and younger professions, and also award and recognition, and also AI committee. I'm working to raise awareness and to develop an AI ethical regulation among region, especially in GCC. I have so many initiatives in Kuwait, and Riyadh, and Dubai.
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Amir, and thank you, the SPRI, for hosting this and inviting me to this distinguished panel. Happy to be part of it. My name is Marcus. I'm the regional manager for Furhat Robotics. Furhat Robotics is a Swedish startup in the field of conversational AI, social robotics, and we have developed a conversational robot, a social robot called Furhat. And of course, now with the large AI or the latest AI developments and large language models, this is something that we are integrating now and trying to be at the forefront of conversational AI. So I hope I can contribute on that topic. I'm happy to be here.
Can you hear me now, please? Okay, good. All right. Okay, good. I'm speaking to you from Kuwait, here in the region, in the Middle East. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am originally, from India, but I have lived and worked in Canada, Montreal, Canada, for a very long time. And recently, we came for a 2-year project to the Middle East, and we are here for more than 20 years, doing well in the region. I am, very much, involved in AI in the region. I have been pursuing a lot of efforts in the ecosystem development here in the region. And that gave me the credibility to get involved in multiple AI proposals here in the region. And I'm very much, looking forward to start implementing AI projects in the coming months. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So can you hear my voice? Can you? Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. Very happy to talk to you and to the distinguished board of people here. I call from, pardon me, I call from Italy. I'm dean of a university called Uni College. We have 4 campuses across the country, and we do specialize in many different specializations. However, my back is from the art market, and in fact, today we're going to be talking about the art market in the Middle East and some sort of the hints regarding the digital art implications and also artificial intelligence. I come from the Christie's World, the Oxford House in London, where I specialized and worked. And then I proceeded with a doctorate in the UK and in the US, and I specialized in advanced education leadership at the University of Harvard. So that is more or less about me. And today we're going to be talking about art markets with a specific focus on the Middle East and Iran, indeed. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. I don't know whether you can see it or not. Can you? I can't see you now because I'm sharing my screen. So if you can just say yes or no, I can understand that you're seeing my screen. Right. Okay. So first of all, we have like 20 minutes or so. So I wanted it to become a bit more interactive. So also for you to understand what is the differences between what you might empirically think about the market and what is actually the actual market in the Middle East. So my first icebreaker question would be, do you think that MENA, so the Middle East and the North African market, has grown, stabilized or decreased in the last 15 years? And I want to give you some seconds for you to drop some comments in the chat, which we can later on just write. But just if you have to think of the context you mostly operate in, do you think the art market has grown, stabilized or decreased? Just some seconds for you to drop some comments in the chat. And I don't know, like whether you're ready, you can also write GSD as the initial. But going ahead, these are two of the most updated graphs we have about the projections of the value of the visual art markets in the Middle East and North Africa from 2010 to 2019, and then from 2018 to 2030. So the projection is pretty wide. And over the 20 years, you can see that the Middle Eastern art market is in fact supposed to be booming and increasing steadily. So we're talking about a positive climate and environment for the art market world. This is a kind of an interesting projection. And as you can tell, there is not a kind of a consolidated study that puts together this big projection. In fact, the study do have to draw from different sources and resources simultaneously. But overall, what we can really just consider is that for the next years, we're going to be seeing and witnessing a growth of this market, which has been so for the last 20 years. So I would like to make a kind of specification about what we use in the taxonomy of the art market, especially from the Western point of view. We do have a kind of a hybrid nomenclature that provides either the ME, Middle East, or the Middle East and the North African countries. And, you know, our tactic, that is one of the most comprehensive studies about the performances of this specific region in the art market, is now preferring MENA, so the overall context. And, you know, of course, this generates both pros and cons. One of the cons may be if you put more countries together, you know, might have more power from the perspective of the value of revenue that is generated, how many artists are being represented, you know, a kind of a unified policy. But it goes without saying, and this would be kind of interesting to discuss with you as well, that, you know, the Middle East and also the North African regions are very diverse from many different points of view. So I think there is a kind of a problematization that we have to take care of while we approach this kind of studies. And I think it's rather problematic from the Western point of view, where this whole region is metabolized together. So this is just for you to have a sort of a technical understanding of how problematic the technical terms might be. So this is another game. And if you have to think this kind of a comprehensive region, which countries do you think are really leading the art market? Just out of your empirical thoughts. You can write in the chats if you want, or we might talk afterwards about it. But this is very important for us to understand whether our perceptions are actually reflected on the actual data. You can also think of the first three and just like maybe write in the chats. I'm going to give you some seconds. I'm very curious. I don't know if you, Amin, you want to read aloud because I can't see, unfortunately, the screen. But if you have some answers in the chats, you can share. Okay, so maybe nobody's answering. Okay. So this is the kind of a broader kind of African context. And you can see that we have Ethiopia 5, Democratic Republic of the Congo 4, Nigeria, Egypt, and South Africa. So this is the kind of understanding of the overall African context. And this is a kind of interesting monitoring because it's been taking place from 2016 till 2023. And I have to confess, it's rather rare to find. However, if we now move to the actual Middle Eastern focus, what do you think can be the top three? So who would you rank 3, 2, 1? This would be interesting also for you to understand how your feelings about the region you're operating in are actually true or not so much so. What do you think it might be the top 3 countries that are operating in the region in terms of revenue for the art market? Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for reporting because I can't read. Well, I have to confess that this research is very complex. First of all, because it's like very, if you really have to talk about the Middle East, you need to be comprehensive of all countries. And while there are some countries that, of course, can be mapped and actually monitored, other actual countries like Syria, for example, Oman or Yemen, have not available data, at least in English. I shall confess that, of course, as a researcher, I have a limit about this because I do not speak all the languages that are spoken in the region. Farsi, Arabic, even though I do speak a bit of Arabic. Anyways, I'm not proficient. So, of course, this data is also limited because of the limitation of the researcher that is contextualizing the study. So, this is kind of academic honesty that I have to be put forward, in this research. Now, I would like to make a little focus on Iran to understand, since Sharif University is based in the country, to understand first how the tangible art market works and then see how it's developed in the digital and artificial intelligence realm. But in any case, we're going to have the answer to the ranking I kind of presented before. So the domestic market of Iran is very interesting. It's very strong and it's been increasing. And you can see the revenue here between 2022 and 2023, and it's really grown by 71%. The most major actor really in the country is the Iran auction that is this very important event, which unfortunately in 2022 was not held. And because of this, you can see that the actual turnover is very, very important. So Tehran auction is really the representative, the kind of a point of reference in the country for the actual, growth of the market. And in fact, as soon as it stops being present on the market, there is a kind of a drop in the revenue for the whole country. And you see that the drop is by it's a great kind of a percentage. So Tehran auction is a very valid player across the country. Then I would like also to see some other figures, and I'm using the actual dating applicable in Iran in due respect of what is the region that is being analyzed. And you can tell that actually the value of the lots that are not sold, being those lots that might go to auctions, but unfortunately aren't unsold, and the lots that actually sold below estimates. When you sell the works at auction, you might have, I would make an example, the estimated price would go from 10 to 15. 10 would be the low estimate. Whereas the lot sold within the estimate, 38, 29, 30% more or less. And then if the lot sold above estimate, so those that were supposed to sell at a certain price, but then actually outranked. And the great, beautiful piece of information that comes across by reading this analysis is that the percentages are very much aligned to global players in global countries. This means that the professionals that are working in Iran have a very high level of expertise and knowledge of their own artists, demand, and customers. So the market, from a domestic point of view, really comes across as organized, specialized, and efficient on a domestic level. Now I have another question instead. So these are some of the categories that are selling the most at an Iran point of view, internally speaking. If you had to rank, I'm not going to ask you to like put all of them in kind of a position, but what is, do you think, the most sold art category in the region, being Iran in this specific case? Calligraphy, collage, I apologize, there is a spelling mistake, painting, photography, or sculpture. What would be, do you think, the medium that sells the most? And you can write in the chat, and then if you... Okay. I think there's someone with a microphone on. Can I ask the other guests, please, to switch that off? Sorry for interference for the other guests. Thank you. Anyways, you got it right. So your understanding is very correct. This painting is like the actual medium. It's so big that photography basically is not present. This tells you a lot if you operate in the market, also in the digital market, because usually there's a kind of a correspondence between what is sold on a tangible, live presence, and then what is also transposed onto the online market. NFTs, artificial intelligence generated art, and so on and so forth. So painting really is dominant, which is like very dominant worldwide. It's the #1 medium sold internationally speaking, with a percentage of 70% almost. So there is really kind of a dominance in the global market. This is the top sales the last in 2023. It's this, I can't pronounce unfortunately, but it was sold for almost $500,000. And this is also the ranking of the top 20 best-selling Iranian artists. And speaking of segmentation and representation, just 3 out of 20 are actually women. And also to have a sort of a further element of understanding who's actually having an actorial level of presence in the country, we're mostly speaking of kind of mature, aged artists. Some of them are also passed away. So there is a kind of rather weak regeneration of young artists, which is instead the case in other countries like the United Arab Emirates, for example. So Iran tends to have a preference towards very well-established artists and, of course, men. As you can tell, women are just like a very little presence, 3 out of 20. The Artscape, this is the number of exhibitions that have been held. So it's a pretty consistent number, and of course we have the biggest city, the most represented, being Tehran, and then the second being Isfahan. I apologize for the pronunciation, I'm sure it's not correct, but these two cities are basically the two capitals in the country if you really want to have a sort of an art exposure that is valid, and the number of exhibition is rather actually active, considering also the number of citizens present in both cities. So it's a very, respectable artscape, so to speak. If we actually leave the country and we go from domestic to international, you see that, the nearby countries are pretty present when it comes to absorbing Iranian artists, So you have the UAE, pretty big, like it's the main player, and in the region I'm very happy also we have here people from the region, but still UK, US, so the Western Bloc does absorb a lot of Iranian artists, and also leading world's companies like Christie's, Sotheby's, Bonhams, Phillips, and Millen and Associates is like one of those that is really absorbing the most artists. So the international demand for Iranian artists is pretty broad, and it's also managed by the world's most important actors in the realm of auction houses. Now, let's go on the recent case. I wanted to provide you with a sort of a context of how Iran is performing as we speak. So we took into account 6 auction houses that were just dedicated to Middle Eastern art. And these auctions were held in London and Paris, and some of the world's leading auction houses. So 438 works were by Middle Eastern artists, so it was not MENA, and 235 were just the artists from Iran, so almost 50%. So the representation in these international auctions is very massive if we talk about the demographics who's participating. Egypt is pretty strong, as we saw also in the previous map, but Iran actually comes second. So we're talking about something that was just held a month ago. So it was a series of auction houses that is very fresh, very tangible, and very updated. And Iran is very close achievement-wise to Egypt. You see that the turnover was 3 million for Egypt and the sell-through rate of 73%, being how many works of art eventually sold. When you focus on Iran, you have 2.1 million. So there is yet, of course, a difference, but the performance is great. It's the second country in the region as we speak of the most recent achievements in the market. Now, let's go into Middle East and art digital market. So now we're leaving the kind of a physical market and we are taking off towards the virtual market. So these are some of the most important achievements in the area. So Jalal Luqman, and I apologize again for my pronunciation, was basically the kind of the first artist in the UAE to kind of create a foundational scene in the digital art market. So it's been pretty historicized. We're talking about almost 70 years of history of digital art practices in the region. Then there was Image East in 2014, so 11 years ago, plus Meta MENA, November 2021. They were the first Meta show in the region, which is more or less what happened in the world. Just to give you some sort of comparative understanding, the first ever sold NFT in the world in the art market was in 2014. So same time as the Middle East. So the Middle East is not, delayed. It's like participating simultaneously with other countries. So it's not laid back or kind of, delayed in terms of achievements. And then Christie's Art Plus Tech Summit Dubai just took place in March 2023. So even Christie's, that is like one of the leading players worldwide, is putting an attention eye onto the region and specifically on Dubai. And while the volume of NFT globally apparently dropped by 83% in 2022, and unfortunately, I shall confirm the same percentage for 2023 and 2024. Actually, in Dubai, there is a great demand that seems to go against the trend in the Western world. So digital assets and digital economy apparently is very, very strong in the region. And there is also this Dubai Virtual Asset Law that came into effect on March 11, 2022, that also kind of formalized even further the production and maintenance of these assets. So the region is really moving towards and pro these assets, also from a legal point of view. And this is the kind of, I shall confess that it was very difficult to do data digging, but these are pretty trustworthy observatories. And this is the kind of a distribution internationally speaking. And the Middle East is defending a good point. Of course, this is not proportion against the demographics and the GDP, but nonetheless, taking also this variable into account, the population of the Middle East compared to the one of Europe or the States or Asia, it's rather limited, but yet participation proportionally is interesting. In fact, that's why, Christie's or other players are really putting an eye of attention onto the region because it's very, very promising indeed. Now, let's go and focus on Iran with digital art this time. So there was this parking gallery that created the first, was the first to exhibit digital art in the country back in the 2000s. So it's been almost 25 years that Iran has been investing proactively into digital culture. And Ahmad Nadalian, he created his work 01 in 2001 that is called the first digital Iranian work in the digital realm. And of course, when we talk about the events, as we saw, events are the leading kind of actors in the actual scene. There's the Tehran's annual digital arts called TEDx that has been operating since 2011. And just to tell you how other countries, are operating, there are not as many countries that have been as active. So while it might look like as a sort of a recent achievement, actually it's not. Iran, as well as the whole Middle Eastern region, has been very, very active, both domestically and internationally, because of course we have also to take into account the diaspora of artists internationally that are contributing to the building of this culture. But nonetheless, also domestically speaking, the achievements are very important indeed. Oh, I apologize. You can't really see this, but I'm gonna just narrate. I apologize for the upload. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, but also digital culture in general, what we have to bear in mind is the culture of crypto. You know, we talk about cryptocurrencies and crypto memory and crypto culture, crypto economy, and so on and so forth. And you know, crypto is a word that comes from ancient Greek that means hidden. We know that because of the decentralized culture, most of the operators and actors in this specific segment of the market, they tend to be hidden, unknown. They mostly operate with usernames that are not known. It wouldn't be your name and last name. So that is why it's difficult sometimes also to track who are the actual leaders of this revolution. Nonetheless, we do have some sort of VPNs and also other kind of tools where we can use to understand where the digital culture is taking place. So we interrogated systems to understand where most cryptocurrencies are actually being centralized. And Iran, in the specific case, along with the Middle East, is kind of shyly participating. Turkey instead is like one of those actors that is really participating in the cryptocurrency regularization. But why did we focus on this? Because if you don't have the money, especially cryptocurrencies, you cannot really operate within this realm of operations, mostly. This is not, of course, happening all the time, but if you can track back where all this money is being bought, maybe produced, you can understand maybe what is the culture in the specific country. And specifically about Iran, there were different laws. In 2018, there was a ban on the actual negotiations and use of cryptocurrency. Then in 2019, especially after the sanctions that were imposed on the country, there was a kind of an overture, so opening. In 2020, there was a limit up to 10K euros. And the current limitation is basically, it's a kind of a hybrid understanding whereby the energy consumption of these assets might lead to people to say, hey, you're producing too much of energy, so we have to limit your production. And this is a kind of, it came across the interpretation of this law as a kind of cold, opaque, not really clear understanding of why there is a ban on the creation and, you know, of cryptocurrency. And I apologize again for these images, but let me just tell you that I've used Google Trends to understand what the Iranians are actually looking online. NFT, OpenSea AI are very, very present in the research. And I would like to go to the next. Oh, I apologize. I can share anyways the PDF with the actual images. That shows you that eventually the research is very vibrant. And whilst benchmarked against other countries, these graphs really come across as promising. And that is why in this kind of a conclusive slide, I would like to say that Iran, along with the whole region, is very, very promising, not only from a domestic and international point of view, but also when you monitor the kind of a sentiment that is being researched online. And of course, today we have representatives from the UAE as well as Dubai. Those are the kind of two magnets that somehow are really illustrating the progress of this region in the realm of, but even Iran, for the sake of the regionality of Sharif University as well, is very, very promising. And I found out, you know, a very vibrant scene, both domestically, but also the great cohort of artists that are operating from international countries and that being sold to the most important venues. So I shall thank you so much. Merci, as you say. And if you want to like dispose of the bibliography, of course, I can send you all of this plus all the other sources I used. And I apologize again for the images. Yeah, sure. Can you run yeah, why not? This is not really a question. As a researcher, I have to prove it out of facts. I think the whole region would be more comprehensive if collaborated. Europe per se, just to take an example, it's not a very strong market. Italy, for example, represents just 1% of the global market, but Europe per se together represents almost 50% of the market. I think if we think of the regional size of it, the Middle East can really have a great voice internationally speaking from both the conceptual, digital and cryptocurrency point of view. But of course, yes, Iran has all the ingredients. Sometimes it's just a matter of laws. As you know, Europe has been the only continent in the world to issue the AI Act. I saw some colleagues in Iran that are writing beautiful pieces of papers that are drawing inspiration from Europe. So there is a great interest also to formalize artificial intelligence acts into Iran and across the region, actually, because that was the very first. So Iran does have all the human capital, the digital capital, and yeah, of course, it's very promising, but I can't tell that's going to be the protagonist. We're here to all witness that, but inshallah, I would say. And the second one would be, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, crypto culture is a concept that really is a kind of a collegial, kind of a widespread interest in being educated about buying, transacting, in preferring also. Let's say one day, let's go a bit back. Imagine, remember when we had the hard currency being the actual money and then credit card? That's a kind of a revolution we're assisting. At one point, we had to make a choice. Should I pay with the actual currency, with the money, or should I pay with a credit card? Some of the crypto culture might be, should I pay with my cryptocurrency or my credit card or whatever? So talking about crypto culture means creating an ecosystem where your choices, what to buy, how to buy, what medium to use, would lead your country to participate in the crypto culture. Also the studies you would like to pursue, pursuing a bachelor in artificial intelligence or crypto culture rather than traditional arts and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of a crypto culture. All the different variables that create an ecosystem in the country that is pro to specific culture.
Yeah, actually, in Kuwait, we have a very green market. We're still exploring how we can utilize AI. We have it in governmental sectors. They're trying to use a large language modeling system to provide some solutions for governmental organizations, especially in legal sectors, because they find that it can help them, and there is some showcases they try to use it. And government, it has initiatives to have national AI strategies. And on the other hand, the private sectors utilize it a lot. AI, we're having some now they just announced they use AI in mental health therapists. We have an application using AI as a mental health therapist assistant. I already have a startup using AI also for cognitive behavior therapy for a student in university, trying to support them during exam times and during their student life. And in commercial places, they use AI for business analysts and marketing strategies. So this is, I think, the most areas is going with the AI, especially in marketing. Comparing to the region, we still, like I said, we are a green market. We're still trying to find some regulation. Just this week was talking about AI in assistive technologies and AI in robotics and surgeons. We use these technologies, but we are not trying to develop these technologies or regulating these technologies. And comparing to the region, this is what I get an overview what's happening in Europe and what's happening in GCC. In Europe, I've seen they're happily regulating AI, like in France and EU. I've been to Vienna to see the standardization EU standardization office. They just have a pilot study to have regulating ethical AI for Vienna city. In Saudi Arabia and Emirates, they already publish a draft for ethical AI, and they going more investing in this sectors. We see Saudi Arabia have large language modeling system for Arabic language called Alam, and then in Emirates, UAE, they have G42 company. They have Arabic GPT. So they're trying to be developer of this market, and this is like overview what's the AI market trends in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as previous speaker Ali mentioned, I think UAE, if you look in a regional context and also globally, is one of the countries that have come quite far when it comes to the AI strategies and the AI initiatives. I saw a recent ranking globally where UAE ranked as number 5 in the world among the sort of AI nations in the world. I think the UAE early on realized that AI is a technology that it's worth investing in. So they have been heavily investing into that. Ali mentioned the G42 with the large language model Falcon. You also have JACE, another large language model in Arabic. But of course, what really drives the AI agenda here, I would say, is all the government initiatives. UAE, to my knowledge, is one of the only, if not the only country with the AI minister. Since a couple of years back, you have a AI council. In Dubai, where I live, you have the Dubai Future Foundation, which is a lot about finding the future solutions for the city of Dubai, which obviously entail a lot of AI solutions. So I think that the UAE has really come far, and today I'm in Abu Dhabi. I'm attending the Abu Dhabi Financial Week, and AI is talked about everywhere. So in all the sectors, there is really a discussion about AI, and every week there are announcements about initiatives where AI is going to be integrated, is going to be developed as solutions for the different sectors. As a comparison to that, I mean, just like Farhat Robotics, my company is from Sweden. I'm also from Sweden. Last week in Sweden, there was a report released by a committee, the Swedish AI committee, who was asked by the government to develop a roadmap for Sweden. And the initial idea was that this roadmap was going to be presented next year, but the committee saw such an urgency in starting implementing these needs already now, so they actually released the report 6 months earlier. So I think the Middle East in general, and maybe the UAE in specifically has come quite far compared to many other regions where, as in Europe, as mentioned, we tend to focus a lot on regulation rather than maybe other aspects of it. So that would be my contribution to that.
I have that photograph number if you need that photograph.
I said yes. You hear me, please? Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. I have had the opportunity of, meeting a lot of people in the in my AI journey recently. All over the world, I have not only in the Middle East, but also more than 15 different countries. So I have looked at the best practices everywhere, in Europe, in US, and also in Asian countries also, and also here in the region. Comparatively, as our other panel have already mentioned, UAE is leading the charge here in the region. They were one of the early starters, and they're really doing well. They're very aggressive, both the government and also the private sector. And Qatar and Saudi being a very large country, they have also a very huge investment in artificial intelligence program, from the government point of view. And there are a lot of private initiatives that are also happening. I myself, I was involved in fielding an application to one of the government agencies in Saudi. And they are very much adapting the latest AI technologies to really bring automation in terms of quality of their databases at the national level. It's one of the national agencies in Saudi, in Riyadh. So I see that the government is establishing, is funding a lot of initiatives, and at the same time it is giving also the strategical strategical plan in AI. And what I really believe that should happen is that there should be a lot of collaboration between government and business, between business and universities. This is something that I believe a lot of collaboration needs to happen. To really kind of take to leverage the AI and to embrace the different technologies and tools as quickly as possible in various roles that we have. I have one set of things that I wanted to say here. Is that okay, I have set up collaboration between business, university, startups, and also in terms of sharing best practices between in various sectors. For example, public sector, if you say take it, and there should be collaboration efforts of best practices used in UAE and Qatar and Saudi and Kuwait. And I'm sure that Kuwait being the last one in terms of starting their journey in AI, they will have the opportunity to really kind of get the best practices from the region, and this is something sector-wise it needs to happen. Health sector, public sector, finance sector, they should have a greater level of collaboration, between the countries, to share their, learnings. And also, what government is doing, it needs to have a media and communication strategy so that people can get involved. We need to have a really communication platform where the government is really kind of letting everyone know what it's doing, so that where all the stakeholders can get involved and get involved and start benefiting in everything that the government is doing. And everything, also needs a lot of change management processes. So we need to have, mechanism so that changes are really properly managed and, at every level of the country. So that is needed. And in terms of knowledge sharing portal, we need to really have a way to, there is so much of information that's available, and this needs to be shared through knowledge sharing portal kind of thing. And also, we're all talking about, the goodness of public service in UAE, for example, because everything happens so rapidly. If you want to go do something as a, in terms of government service, but we need such kind of great public services happening in one country, propagated, explained to other regions also, so that they can be easily adapted, in different systems in other countries. Everything is, I have looked into recently AI ethics, governance, and also data security in the context of multiple projects. Everything is pointing towards responsible AI, trusted AI. So I know everybody is hopping onto the cybersecurity kind of arena. And also, Arabian culture has its own cultural sensitivities. So everything, what is, we are talking everything about AI for social good and all. But it has a different point of view, American, European, but the Arabian point of view, it needs to come out, and it needs to be kind of well understood, in the development of even the large language models. Like for example, as one it's being developed, as some is being developed in Emirates. Some are being developed in Qatar, and even in Saudi, and there will be some here in Kuwait also. And more importantly, in terms of all the transition that's happening, we need to have key performance indicators and also targets, in terms of how our training program should be, in terms of how many PhDs that we want how many certification. So all of these kind of things. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for raising that question. It is like one of the, there's some people are talking about the geopolitics, the rebirth of geopolitics of languages. Artificial intelligence especially is based on sources and resources that are written in language. And the more sources you have, the better the artificial intelligence operates. And of course, if you make a calculation of what is the dominant language internationally speaking is English, because even international people from Iran, from the region, might be writing and publishing and posting in English. So the artificial intelligence that we're using is being powered even from foreigners themselves. And that is why China created its own artificial intelligence in Chinese. And I heard that also in the region, there is an artificial intelligence that is run in Arabic. And this is very important because, again, for those people who might have maybe less experience with artificial intelligence is based on language because it's based on sources. So if the sources are written in English, of course, the artificial intelligence in English will be empowered. But if we have a lack of other languages, they're going to have less geopolitical AI power also when it comes to the kind of international competitive rate of what is the strongest artificial intelligence. And that is why different governments, I also heard apparently there's one in Sweden, an organization, they might be prone to opening and expanding in their own language. Because if we do not invest in regional, linguistic-based and language-based artificial intelligences, eventually there's going to be just one that is dominant. And that, it's kind of interesting how, again, even technology can absorb the technology and exacerbate an effect of soft power. Because in the realm of artificial intelligence, language is a mean of soft power. It doesn't hurt you, but it does empower certain area and certain languages. And that is why it is important that every kind of a region has its own artificial intelligence. Potentially with some sort of eligibility between them, because they need to interact.
Can I just add something there? Yeah. And I hear an echo now, but it's good. It's good. It's gone. Yeah, just to comment on that, on the importance of the linguistic and the language, coming from a conversational AI point of view, one topic that we are working on at the moment is finding a way for our social robot to speak Arabic in different dialects. Arabic is one language, but multiple different dialects, right? And an important part about AI is that we make it accessible to everyone. We cannot develop solutions that are only for certain individuals or for certain geographies. We need to make sure that we develop inclusive solutions, and part of that is, of course, finding the different dialects. So just wanted to iterate what the previous speaker was saying, about the importance of finding these solutions. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll also elaborate more on this topic. Like, especially like when I was looking to develop an AI tools for mental health support. I've gone across so many papers and researches happening. Like, because I work as this is as my research project. I've seen also there is some Iranian Persian tools to understand Persian. So the beauty of AI that you can train it with different dialect or different languages based on some cases. So it will support multiple languages seamlessly, going from Persian to Arabic to Swedish to English to Italian, and this is, I think, one of the beauty of AI. I get a question: can we like different if there is some restrictions? I said AI is like will open the doors and cross the border.
Yeah, because this is a kind of one of the realms of research I really work on. And yeah, while it's so true, like, and I do gather with what we're saying with the colleagues, unfortunately, if we're talking about the actual final brain, these are operations that can be facilitated. But if we're talking about the amount of language and sources on which the artificial intelligence sits, unfortunately, there's a dominance of English. And I say unfortunately, even though I was born and raised in the UK, because like if you have to generate even, there are very beautiful experiments by very international artists who have been trying to interrogate the artificial intelligence to generate images that could then produce NFTs and so on and so forth. Eventually, the artificial intelligence will mostly draw from, imagine, the people that would be portrayed would be white, mostly men, and so on and so forth. So, as we know, there is a big bias, and these biases sometimes mostly trained on Western stereotypes. If you talk about a woman, there wouldn't be likely a woman with a veil, for example, that would draw from a different iconography, because most of the sources they draw from is Westerns, unfortunately. So this is a beautiful magic that artificial intelligence might do, as you were saying, but unfortunately, when it comes to the kind of the humus, the ground it draws the information from, unfortunately, most times it's from the English resources, which still plays a great geopolitical AI tool. And I would say, unfortunately, I really hope for diversity and more inclusion when it comes to even to more languages.
Yeah, I think eventually it's going to have a huge impact on all industries. I think it's, even though we have been talking about AI for a long time now, I think it's also important to remember that we're still in the early days. We don't see as much implementation maybe as we would hope for. But we're starting to see some shifts in certain industries. For us as a social robotic and AI company, I think one traditional sector that we are working in is the healthcare, where we see that big disruptive events such as the corona pandemic that we had a couple of years ago can really disrupt a whole industry, and using AI, for example, a conversational AI in our case, we could make sure to develop solutions using AI to support the healthcare workers. We developed a medical screener, for example, that was used in a lot of hospitals as a first instance. When people would go to a hospital, they would talk to our robot instead of talking to a person, meaning minimizing the risk to spread COVID and the virus. And then you would do sort of a first screening. Robot would ask you questions. How do you feel? Do you have fever? Do you cough? And based on the answers, it will then guide the people to either go back home maybe, or go see a doctor or something like that. So I think what we'll start to see in those, we'll probably see a more rapid shift in industries that maybe are not so consumer facing as healthcare tend to be. But of course, in general, AI will help us to develop more secure and more safer solutions, better and faster analyzing data to make us take better decisions, whether that's in oil and gas or other logistical industries as well. So I think it in general it will have a big impact, and I think we're just in the beginning, starting to see those impacts.
Yeah, I've seen there's a lot of opportunities going on, and there's a lots of startups going on based on AI tools and AI, generative AI. When Marcus said about generative AI, I just like been yesterday, I've seen solutions that going from Kuwait to Silicon Valley that is providing a concept called agentic. So there is an agent utilizing the generative AI to do some sort of tasks is going on. So they created for medical field like an agentic for as a nurse. So it's going with a patient, and agentic like assistive for a surgeon that it help him to diagnose. And I think because every part of the world is like we have similar diseases, but like some diseases like more occurring in different parts of the world. And I think AI will help us to understand and to find medicine and curing things. Also, I've seen it in Saudi Arabia. They're using now to develop an chipset for running AI because now we see the main competitors now like Google and Microsoft. They're providing the chipset for doing the AI processing and generative AI. We know generative AI need a lot of processing. So now we see this market going on to Middle East, and they're trying to compete with them. They're trying to use GPUs with their own solution, and how we can create an AI server farm that can deal with, especially like here we have we see cheap electricity, so it's to run this will be cheaper than and Europe, because Europe the cost of electricity is so high. So I think will be like kind of a new kind of economy, that we're running this AI server farm and we're running this all computational things with a super computing here in our market.
All the countries, in the region, when they develop the strategic plan and they make it available so that everybody can start following it in their adaptation in multiple industries. They have made it a point to incorporate, UN Sustainable Development Goal, which are applicable to their country-specific development plan. In the case of Kuwait also, it's the same thing, that they have identified a set of sustainable development goals which are applicable, which are quite centric. So all the AI projects that are being done or pursued in multiple sectors, they are really kind of axed on that quite centric way, from sustainable development point of view. And also, I wanted to say that I'm also currently collaborating with one of the research centers in US on a few research project. Human-centered design thinking, and where we are really kind of scoping it with the sustainable development objectives, which are related to soil erosion here in Kuwait, as it's applicable to us, and also from augmentation of performance, with the use of AI. I have to say that I looked at one instance in finance when I was writing the proposal. I looked at the solution architecture, data flow, everything, and it was giving really, what was really taking too much time. It is able to really provide an efficiency of 80% of work that is being done manually. It's able to automate. So that's a huge advantage. Yes, there are 20% which needs to be done by manual process, but 80% of advantage, it's a huge savings. Something that takes 10 days, it can be done in 2 days. It's something that takes 10 hours, it can be done in 2 hours. So that's a huge advantage.
Can you hear me? Guys, I don't know what has happened, but it seems like that all of the guests are being freeze.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I think there is should be several policies being developed as we're going on, like from educational sectors, like how faculty member and the student using generative AI, and for is like what we call it AI for good, and in other part, like when we saying like for private sectors, we should have some regulation. How many, let's say, like how much data can private sector collect from people and store it, and how we deal with this data. And if we jump to health sector, because patient data is very sensitive, so how they will store this data to train their AI model, and is it will be labeled, and is it will be like kind of confidential data, and how it will be stored, and this is will raise concerns about cybersecurity, like is it the secure and the classification of data. I believe that data is the power of AI. Without data, we cannot run any model, or we cannot develop an AI model. So data is the most important. So the accessibility of data, how we can accessible to this data, and how we can train our model, and how much data we should collect and to train to prove this concept is working fine. All this rules and regulations should be set, and it should be set by non-profit organization or governmental organization, because private, I believe they like to collect as much as data they like, and they store it maybe because to keep it stored with is like kind of restrictions to put in layers of security. This is will cost money, and they want to get the most profit, so they will not spend money unless there's some regulate all these things. EU, what I've seen, they already have so many regulate all this process, even the programming the AI solutions, they have some regulation how they deal with this data, and to check the algorithm biases, because if we train our data on biased data, it will give us a biased output.
I'm back. Yeah.
Well, I think it might be, you were talking about the sustainability, and one of the sustainability, which unfortunately, I apologize, one of the unfortunate factors that is not really providing the takeoff in Europe is sometimes the cost of energy. In fact, in Europe, there is a kind of a localization of some of the new startups that really provide some sort of a segmentation in some countries. And the Middle East is also known for having, in some countries, a good advantageous rate for this. So electricity costs, as well as also the kind of environment that is very facilitated for some startups to really be, open and started. In Europe, especially in Southern Europe, the process to like start off with a startup and keep it up are pretty hard. Whereas, like, as we were also talking about before, the UAE, Iran also is moving some steps towards them. Dubai, Qatar, maybe more profitable when it comes to the kind of a more profitable and easy to navigate environment for young startups, and also cost of energy. I think what really is missing is a kind of a legal framework that can really address the whole topic from a very serious point of view and formalize all this kind of opaque market that in some of the countries in the region is moving towards a legitimization, in some other is still stuck in a sort of a limbo, so to speak. So legal contextualization will really be what is needed for this region to take off from this point of view.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be back. Yeah, I think this is a really important topic. Of course, I think it's of utmost importance that we find a way to use AI for good and not for bad. I think one area to look into is, of course, the human capital. That's something that I've talked about challenges before, and I think that's a challenge for the region and maybe other parts of the world as well. Is the accessibility to talent, especially in new technology fields like AI, for example, the lack sometimes of talent. So making sure that when we do investment in AI, that we also invest in people related to AI. AI will not replace people by no means, but it will support us. But we need to educate ourselves for this. I think that's very important. And the other area I think goes a little bit in hand, and I mentioned it before. It's the inclusion, making sure that what we develop is accessible to all. I think those are two policy areas that should be looked at, and I know are being looked at as well. The ethical part of it as well, of course, super important, and that's something that the UAE are working on and has come quite far on as well.
I think one of a big challenge in this region that we don't have the culture of AI and investors. They didn't like, especially like in some green countries, when you're going to invest in AI, they don't. Maybe it's like we have two exceptional countries, Saudi Arabia and UAE. Has been pushed by the top leaders in the government to invest more in AI, but in other countries, it's still like they see AI as black box. They don't know what is the potential of AI, what's the presence of AI. Because I'm part of this association, we're trying to raise awareness among the leadership. And when we're going to them, and they see AI as ChatGPT, and this is just chatbot. You ask him a question, he reply to you, but they don't know the power of AI and what they can offer to you. And I've seen there's so many potentials coming in, and I feel that what they call it, the neighbors, when they're working on it. Saudi Arabia, they just announced to invest more than $800 billion in AI and tech, and this will bring more attention to the power of AI. UAE, they're having a Ministry of Artificial Intelligence, and they do more in AI. But it's like we see it should be like this ecosystem should be led by the government, because in our region, the governmental sector is like, it has the big chunk of the economy system. We are not like in US or Europe, is like driven by private sectors. The government is like taking the lead here. So the most things like to raise awareness for governmental leaders to believe in it, and to bring the ecosystem. And we still we don't have like much developers, and we lack of expertise. And this is, I think, it's a global issue that we don't have enough AI experts, and this is lack of AI experts make it harder for to bring use cases. And it's like when we're trying to convince the government to take with AI strategies, we try to show them some use cases and how AI will leverage this workflow. And they having main concern that it will do unemployment. We tell them no, it will make work more efficient and creating new jobs, maybe replacing some routine jobs. I've seen also like the cost of AI and carbon footprint. AI use massive power, but the cost of it is like depend on where you train your model and what kind of task you will do. I've got reach in GITEX with the J42. They are more open to train models, and because they want to prove the concept that just is working good, and they offer me like for 6 months a trial version. Otherwise, like if we're seeing ChatGPT, OpenAI, they will charge you on the first day.